Welcome, welcome to day 4. I cannot believe that we're already at day 4 of our 5-day masterclass. And I'm going to tell you today is my favorite day because I absolutely love the savory. And I think that what I mentioned to you in some of the other masterclasses, if you were here, is that I had a sugar addiction, and 11 years ago, I started by doing a reboot, and I got off of my sugar, broke the sugar addiction. And so I don't really use a lot of what you call sugar. And so the sweets that we've had, although they're great to have, the chocolate turtles, which I used to love, and the chocolate truffles, which are very rich and full of chocolate, they're not my thing anymore, but I love the savory. So today we are making crackers, some beautiful seed crackers that are amazing. And when you buy crackers in the store, you get a lot of additives. And although most of them taste good, they're probably not that good for us. And these crackers are so easy to make, and they also taste great. I don't make them very often because they call out to me, "Oh, yes, Debbie, come and eat the crackers." So today we'll make those. And we're also making some hummus, and we're going to make it really festive. Even if you decide you want to buy your hummus instead of make your own, I'd love for you to check out how you can make it a festive presentation for today. So I'm going to get started now. So to do that, I'm moving back so you can see my workspace here. All right. And I have my notes because yesterday, just so you know, yesterday we did, actually the intention was to do 2 things. The first one was our truffles, our chocolate truffles, and make our chocolate truffle pine cone, which we did. And then what I wanted to do, and I show you how to use the rest of the chocolate sauce so that you don't waste it. And I actually gave you the recipe, but it's really easy. Just make a chocolate bar out of it. So really all you need to do is pour the chocolate on a piece of parchment paper, which is one of my favorites. I use a lot of parchment paper. And what I did is I added some mint extract, peppermint extract to the chocolate to make it a peppermint. And then I added some crushed peppermint candies to give it a little decorative flair. And voila, you have a great bar. You can do it with nuts, which are definitely better for you, or things like cranberries, dried fruits, raisins. One of my friends, she likes the almonds, roasted almonds with raisins, and then she makes her bark out of that. So lots of ideas of what you can do so that you don't waste the rest of the chocolate sauce. And so I forgot to do that. So today I want to make sure I have my notes so I don't forget anything. So we're going to start by getting I'm just going to wipe this out. We're going to start by getting our crackers going. So I have a bowl here. Literally, I'm just going to add all of my ingredients. That's all you need to do. And I have a flaxseed. So this is ground flaxseed that I'm adding in. And it is amazing fiber. It also has omega-3 fatty acids. If you buy flax seeds and they're not ground up, if you're eating them, the fiber cannot be digested. So if you have flax seeds that are not ground up, they're just going to go straight through you, and you're not going to get any benefit of the fiber. We just can't digest them. So you need to grind them up to have the benefit of the fiber. And you can buy ground flaxseed in the store, or you can take your flaxseed and grind it yourself. And the way that I like to do it, it's so easy, is I actually bought a little coffee grinder that's just for using for that. I don't use it. I don't drink coffee, so I wouldn't use it for coffee. and you can put your flax seeds in there and grind them up. So easy. You could use your high-speed food process or your blender, put them in there, and then just whir it on the top speed to get the flax seeds ground up as well. And if you decide to buy them ground up, which I got to admit I do, is you need to make sure you store them in the freezer. They will go rancid very quickly. Really, the best is to grind your own. But if you're looking for time savers and you buy it ground up, please store it in the freezer. It does go rancid very quickly, and you don't want that. So this is going to be our base. And to that, I'm adding some sunflower seeds. And I'm just going to mention, I mentioned it the last couple of days, our seeds and nuts do have an enzyme inhibitor layer on them. It's a coating to keep them from getting moldy and to keep them fresh. And so if you ever garden, you know that when you first put your seeds in the ground, it takes a couple of days for it to germinate. And the water that you're putting on the seeds when you first put them in the ground, or if you soak them before, is actually to remove that enzyme inhibitor, which will allow the seeds to grow. And if you can, and you have the time, take your sunflower seeds and all of your seeds, soak them, and then I guess I'll call it reconstitute, rehydrate them, or re-dehydrate them by either putting them in the dehydrator if you have a dehydrator, or you can lay them out on a baking tray with a towel or something and let them air dry. I've done both. It takes me about 12 hours, depending on what I'm putting in the dehydrator. And I put it on 112 to 115 and no higher. If I'm air drying them, for me I'm in Toronto, Canada, it took me about 5 days to really get the nuts dry. So it does take a bit of time. Be patient. And then that way you have the enzyme inhibitor off. I think sometimes you can buy seeds and nuts that are sprouted, and that means that they've done that process to take off the enzyme inhibitors on them. I also have some pumpkin seeds here I'm going to add in, and sesame seeds. Now with the sesame seeds, I think that would be pretty tough. That, and what's the other one? Chia seeds. Although they do have enzyme inhibitors, I think they're pretty hard to go through that soaking process because they're so small. And sesame seeds actually are an amazing source of calcium. So you're getting some calcium in there. And then I have some spices that I'll add in. Now you can add in something like dried thyme, dried rosemary. And what I do is my hack is I actually will use like a poultry seasoning that has those things in it. So I put about a teaspoon of poultry seasoning. And then I've got garlic powder, onion powder, and a little bit of salt. I'm going to add those all in, make sure I've got them all there. It's stuck to the bottom. I don't want to miss out on my garlic powder. All right. Get my garlic powder in there. Must have had a little bit of liquid in the bottom, not quite dry. All right, so I've got that. I'm going to mix it up. And literally all I'm going to do is add a half a cup of water to that. Stir it around. And then I'm going to let it sit for about 5 minutes. You can let it sit a little longer, but 5 minutes just to let all of the flaxseed and everything absorb into this little batter that you've made. And then all we're going to do is spread this onto a baking tray, bake it for about half an hour, and that's it. Now, how easy is that? All right, so I'm going to put this to the side for now, and we'll come back to it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our hummus. So let me get rid of some of these things that I don't need. I have a small work surface here. All right. So with the hummus, now you can buy hummus in the store and that's all good. The recipe I'm going to share with you today, and you do get, I will send an email out with all the recipes later today so that you have them. You want all the measurements and everything. This is my mom's recipe that she's handed down to me. I love it. It is really good. Everybody likes it, and we would have this way over having bought hummus. And I do buy hummus because it's easy. But this one is oil free, which to me is a nice feature. So for the hummus, we're going to get out our food processor. I've got it out on the side here. And the first thing we're going to do is add our chickpeas. Yep, chickpeas. Now this is two 15-ounce cans of chickpeas that I have here, and I've rinsed and drained them. What you can do this is where you add some love to what you're making, is you can go through, and if there's here's one here. If they have any shells on them, you can take the little shells off them as well. Now that you don't have to, but if you take all the little shells off and you go through, or you try to get them all off, I'm not finding too many, then it will be a smoother hummus. Here's a couple more that I'm finding, which is good. Get rid of them. I know my mom does it with love, and she gets rid of as many of the shells as she can find. You don't have to, but like I said, if you do, it makes a smoother hummus. Here's one that also has the shell on. Yeah, so you can take the little shells off. I'm going to put them in my little garbage thing here. And then there's some like in mine, these ones don't look as good. They're dark and smaller, so it looks like they weren't fully cooked. So I like to take those out, obviously, as well. Finding a couple more shells, so I'll get rid of those. And then I'm going to add them to here's another little one that's a little bit dark. Add them to my food processor here. Got that. And you can make your own chickpeas. It's actually really easy. All you're really going to do is soak the chickpeas in water again, this is part of the sprouting process. And then once they've been soaked, then you can cook them. And the longer they soak, the better your time you're going to have with the cooking process and getting them soft. So I will give you the recipe on instructions on how you can soak your own and make your own chickpeas. And the nice thing is anytime you make it, it always tastes better than when you buy it. If you want to take the time to make it, if you don't have time to make it, make sure when you're buying your chickpeas in the can that they don't have a bunch of additives and preservatives in it. The ones I buy are just chickpeas and water in them. And I try to get salt-free if I can as well. When processed foods, they tend to add more salt than you need. So that's another way. And then I've got some tahini, which is basically just ground up sesame seeds. And I'm going to give you my hack. So this is 1/3 of a cup. And measuring 1/3 of a cup is not the greatest. It's because it's a paste. So when I'm doing almond butters or tahini or something in a paste, what I do is I get out my scale and I will just do a Google search. And now with ChatGPT, you can ask ChatGPT, how much is 1/3 of a cup? How many grams is 1/3 of a cup of tahini sauce? And then I just measure it into the liquid. It's so much easier. And I think if I recall, it's 72 or 79 grams to make 1/3 of a cup. So that is an easy thing to do. And it's so much cleaner and neater for you. So I'm just going to add my tahini into this here. What would hummus be without garlic? So I have my garlic here as well. Now, when you've got stuff where you've got garlic, if you can remember, chop your garlic first before you do anything else. If you let your garlic, chop it and let it sit, then the enzymes that are going to give it the amazing benefits of antimicrobial, antioxidant, and everything that garlic can do for you. It's magic. It will actually bring those properties out in the enzymes. If you don't do it, you're not getting all of the great benefits. So if you can remember to do that is a good thing. And then we're going to add in some lemon juice here, 1/4 cup of lemon juice. And then the only other ingredient, we've got a little bit of salt, which I'm going to just measure here. I want to do about a teaspoon of salt. You could do a little more or less, and you can flavor check it for yourself. So I'm using pink Himalayan salt when I use salt. You can use Celtic sea salt is also good. But table salt, if you're using table salt, that you should try to look at moving away from the table salt. It is not good. And I'm trying to limit my salt intake as well, just in general. Okay. So we're just going to blend this. So we're just going to pulse this to mix everything up. And then we're going to really blend it and process it, adding some water until it's creamy. Just want to mix everything up first. All right. And then we're going to start adding our liquid slowly. We're going to add about a tablespoon at a time. And we might end up getting to 4 to 6 tablespoons, but we're going to start. Let me add a couple just here to start with. So I've got a 1/2 tablespoon measure here. And I have heard that cold water is better. And some people will say to use ice cubes instead of water. I'm to get the best consistency. I actually did put ice cubes in this water and they melted just in the last few minutes. And now we're really going to blast it and then keep adding some water until we get it to the right consistency. And I'm going to add it to this thing here. So I don't know if you can see this, probably not, but what was happening is and as the hummus went into a big ball and was going around the outside of the food processor, and as I added the water, it started to get a little less of a ball, and I think I did 4 tablespoons of liquid, and I think that's going to be good for this one. It's looking pretty good. So it's up, you can add a little bit more if you need. I'm just going to taste it. Yeah, so now all I need to do is let it blend. So I'm going to put it on maybe for a couple of minutes. So bear with us. And while we're doing that, I'm going to get back to our crackers so we can do those after the hummus is ready. Ooh, it's looking good. You can do a little bit of a test, but it's looking good. And now I have a baking tray with some parchment lined on it. And I'm going to take this crackers. You can, if you need to, you can add a little bit more water on this one. I think it's pretty good. And what we're going to do is put it onto our parchment paper. And we're going to press it down and then roll it out. I like to use a rolling pin. I got my little rolling pin here. And once it gets thinner, then I usually put another piece of parchment paper on top just to keep it a little less mess on the rolling pin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really just put a little bit of water on my hands because that helps so that the crackers don't stick to my hands as much. So I'm just adding a little bit of water so I can spread this out a little bit. And so you have a choice. You can just leave it or you can score it, and I'll show you that later. But you want to just make sure you've got it into a nice, see that if you're not careful, it sticks to your hands. So I'm just putting it into a nice little blob here and evening it out. So kind of something you would do working with dough as well, if you're familiar with working with doughs and stuff. And so I'm just trying to even it out with my fingers a little bit. And I'm going to leave the edges rough. That gives it the artisan type look. So I've just flattened it out. And then I'm going to take this and add a piece of parchment paper on top. A smaller one. And this is where I'm going to take my rolling pin and roll it out. So it just actually fits nicely in here. Put it this way to roll it out, so that'll even it out a little bit. And you could even, at this point, take it out of the pan. Don't want it to go too much width-wise. I want to lengthen it out. So I'm just going to roll it out a little bit. And that'll make it nice and smooth. And you can get it to the thickness that you want, or the thinness that you want. So this one is pretty good. I might do a little thinner, but you can again adjust it to the thinness you want and make sure it doesn't fall off of the parchment paper. All right. So I have now my little artisan paper. I'm going to put it back into the baking tray. All right. And then I'm going to bake this at 320 for about half an hour or so until it gets a little golden brown. And about halfway through, you can turn it, flip it. Let me see. You can score it as well, or you can get rid of the rough edges if you want. I like the artisan look, but I can score it by just using either a pizza cutter, or you could use a knife, whatever you have, and you could score it so that you can make it into squares. And like I said, I like the artisan feel to it. And then with the artisan feel, once it's done, you can just break it. So I put on one side, I did scoring, which I think you can see a little bit with the pizza cutter. The other side I'm leaving. We'll pop this into the oven. Put my timer on. Doing 15 minutes because I don't want to forget. And when it comes out of the oven, this is a piece that I've made. It looks like this is a piece that's the artisan, and I can break this into pieces as I want. So we're going to use that with our hummus in a minute. The next thing, and probably the last thing that we're doing, is we're going to now take our hummus And we're going to make it into a little festive decoration. So let me get the lid off. When you're taking it to a party, what we're going to do is we're going to make a little wreath out of hummus, or hummus wreath. And we're going to use the hummus. I have some parsley here, and I have cucumber and cherry tomatoes. So this is going to make a wreath. So if you're going to somebody's house or you're having people over, this is a great way to dress up your hummus and also add it with those beautiful crackers. So I'm going to start by spreading out some of the hummus. I have this is a plate. If you have a decorative plate, that's great. I don't have anything with fancy edges, but if you have, that's good. And I have a bowl that I'm going to put in. That's going to make the center of the hummus. So you want to figure that's the center of the wreath. And then I'm just basically going to apply the hummus around the plate, around this bowl. And it looks so good. I can hardly wait to try it. Add a little bit more. I want to get all of it scraped out. Don't want to leave any behind. Do it. And it doesn't matter if you get it on the bowl, because you're just going to take the bowl away in a bit. All right. So let's do with that. Put that here. And I think I'm going to use the spoon to just spread it out. I think I have a little helper with me here as well by my side. All right. And if you're artistic, you could work it around however you want. And then once you have the hummus spread out, then you could take the bowl away. And now I have the basis of my wreath. This one's a little high, so I'm just going to bring it down a bit. Okay. So this is going to form our hummus wreath. We'll take that off to the side. And now for the good stuff. I'm going to take, I have some washed parsley here. I'm just going to cut some up to add to my wreath. All right. So I'm just going to take the ends of the parsley and I'm just going to chop it up. I don't want to get the stems in. If I'm making something with blending up the parsley, I'll use the stems because there are so many nutrients in the stems. But if for a decorative more, I don't want that stems in there. So I'm going to add here. I just put it like into a little ball and then I'm just going to cut so that I get the parsley. Cut up. Now you can put as much or as little parsley as you want for decoration. I'm just going to add it around. Maybe some of my guests don't like parsley. Actually, I was parsley is very good for you. Herbs are amazing. You've got lots of nutrients. And parsley is great if you have bad breath or you want, rather than taking a mint, eat a sprig of parsley. And it's actually pretty good. If once you may have to get used to the taste, but we'll let our guests dig around it if they don't like it for our wreath here that we're doing. I was working with a videographer, and she did not realize you could eat parsley. She thought it was just for decoration. I was quite surprised, but if you're thinking that, this is a chance to tell people, no, parsley is actually really good for you. All right, got one here I want to get rid of. I don't like this one. And I had a couple fall in my middle, which I think is okay. So now that's the next layer of my hummus wreath. You can see just sprinkling some parsley on it. Let me get rid of this parsley. Don't want to. All right. So that's the parsley wreath. Clean this off. Next, we're going to add some little decoration. I'm going to show you. I got to go to my fridge. I've got some cheese that I made. It's a vegan feta cheese, and I forgot to bring it in. Now, the feta cheese that I would recommend is actually made really easy. You'll get the recipe for it. I forgot to bring it in the house. I just want to give you the idea. This one, you can buy dairy-free feta cheese. It's not as good because it does have additives in it. We want to try and be whole food, but you can actually just make the feta and I'll give you the recipe, by just marinating some cubes of tofu in marinade overnight. And that's what I was doing. And then I forgot to bring it in. So bad on me. But I do want to show you the effect. And if you decide you want to buy feta, here, a little bit of feta on it. This one is pretty good in terms of the taste. It would probably be the one I would recommend. It does have some things like some preservatives. So it's got filtered water and coconut oil, potato starch. It also has modified potato starch, which means that's a GMO. So it's not the best. Some sea salt, potato protein, some flavoring, cane sugar, calcium phosphate, and lactic acid. So the last 2 or 3 aren't the best, but if it makes your life easier and you're going to do it better that way, or you're not going to, that's good. I want to show you the full effect of the whole wreath, but also if you make your feta cheese, it's literally just marinating tofu, and it tastes really good. So there we have our wreath is taking shape. I'm going to save 1 tomato that I'm going to use to make the centerpiece. I'm going to make a little bowl for the tomato. So I've got that. We're going to use this little. So we've got one kind of centerpiece of our bowl here. Just place them around. So we have now it's shaping up. Last, we're going to add a ribbon to it. All right, so for the ribbon, we're going to use the cucumber. And what we're going to do with the cucumber is you can do thin slices with a peeler. There's the Y-shaped peeler as well that you can use. This is the vegetable peeler that I have. It's actually a Cutco one. And what I'm just going to do is make some very thin slices of cucumber. Here, just a few is all I need. So you could just do that. If you have a mandolin, you could try using the mandolin. But honestly, this is so much easier and quicker. So I have a couple of strips that I'm going to use to make a bowl. What I want is I've got 2 strips of this size, and then I'm going to have 2 strips that are a little narrower. So I'm going to leave these ones because I'm going to make them into let me do 2 more strips. Oops, let me see if I can get this. I got to go to the other side. Let's get a couple of strips here. All right. So here's a couple more strips. You want them to be roughly uniform, the strips. So I've got 2 strips here that are the bigger strips, and then I've got a couple of strips that I'm going to have that are going to cut them a bit to make them a bit smaller. And then I have my bows here. All right, so let me get rid of the extra pieces so I can show you what I'm doing here. All right, I have the center of my bowl here. I'll put on the side. I have my 2 long strips that I'm going to fold up in half. I'm folding them in half. And then I have my 2 shorter strips that I'm folding in half as well. And I'm place that there. All right, so I basically, I'll show you here, see if I can show you. And then I'm taking the 2 other ends and I'm going to just make a notch for the ribbons. So I did a notch. Okay, so I have my 2 ribbons with the notches in them. And what I'm doing is I'm taking my bigger cucumber slices and I've put them in half and I'm putting them together. Then I'm on top of that, I'm layering 2 smaller ones that I've put in half. And then I'm going to put that underneath that is the ribbons. I'm going to put those all together to make a bow. So hopefully you can see the bow. And I'm going to add the bow to my hummus wreath. And then I'm just pressing it in a little bit. And then I'm going to add my cherry tomato on top. Now, hopefully I can show it all to you, what it looks like. And so you can bring this to a party or have it at your own house as a party. But yeah, so that is a hummus wreath. All right. Looks very festive. And you could even take, if you buy your hummus because you're not really having the time to make your hummus, you could do the same thing. And yeah, I think this will wow your guests or if you take it to someone's house. I think it'll wow the host. All right. Now I'm going to open it up to any questions on what I've done. And I'm going to bring myself closer so I can do the questions. Oh, hang on. Let's do this one more thing. I'm going to take my crackers out halfway. So that was our 15-minute mark. I'm going to bring them out of the oven with my crackers. All right. They're starting to smell good and look good. Move this out of the way. To turn it over, usually what I do is I add the parchment paper on top. And I use that to flip it back onto the other parchment paper. Let's see if it'll work. And then I could take the piece off, the other piece off. And it's pretty good here. And then that way I can just put it back in the oven. Oh, some of the pieces came off, the ones I scored. So yeah, so it's halfway done. I'm going to put it in the oven until it's a little bit golden brown and crispy. So it'll probably be another 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to put the timer on. Again, because I don't like to forget. I'm going to move this out of the way. Bring myself closer to you guys. and ask now if there's any questions. Anybody have any questions on what I just did? Here, let me show you this. Maybe it's a little closer now. I don't want it to fall.
Yeah, I think Kimberly asked a question.
All right, Kimberly. Yeah, let me look. I haven't looked at the chat yet.
Okay.
Great.
She
Thanks,
said, what is
OJ.
the thickness you tend to use for the crackers? She's asking about the thickness.
Yeah, so this is, again, I don't know if you can see how thick it is. I would say it's about a quarter of a centimeter thick. But you can do it whatever thickness you want. I would try and get it thinner rather than thick. But this is pretty good, like it's a good thickness. You can get it thinner if you can. You might have to add a little bit more water and play around with it. But it's pretty good here. And I don't know if you can hear, it breaks quite easily. So it's not bad. Oh, let me try my hummus. Dig into my wreath. Cheers. Those are my favorite. The other thing that you can do is chill the hummus beforehand. I was making it all, but definitely it works too to chill your hummus before you do your decorating. But there's oil free and it's easy to make. And at least my family, it beats the taste test of the bought hummuses that you can buy. But not to say there's anything wrong with the bought hummus, for sure. Any other questions on that? All right. So I want to, before we go, we've got some more time. There's a couple things I would like to do. The first one is that I wanted to go through the nutrition benefits to make sure I capture them all and go through that. So our hummus, so chickpeas are loaded with protein. So any legumes, which is your beans, chickpeas, lentils, are great plant-based protein and fiber. We need to get, I think it's about 40 grams of fiber a day. And most people in Canada and the US are getting less than half the fiber that they need. And we need the fiber for our gut health. So our digestive system, we have all sorts of microorganisms growing in our gut, which is like our intestines and colon and everything. And we need to have fiber to fuel. Fiber is the food for the good microorganisms that we want to have in our system. And I know people get probiotics, which is really the microorganisms. You want to grow your own microorganisms in your stomach and our gut. So gut health is a fairly new topic. We really only in the last 40 years have had some research. And the reason why we're learning so much about the gut now is because up until we had some powerful instruments, but we couldn't see all the microorganisms that were in our gut and part of ourselves, because we have microorganisms all over our skin, our face, everywhere. So when the microorganisms, up until I think it was the 60s or around the 60s, they didn't even have the technology to be able to see the microorganisms. They could see about 25 and that was it. Now we know there's like trillions of them on us and there are many varieties, but to feed the good or microorganisms and bacteria and things that are good for us and in our gut, you need to have fiber. And fiber comes from plant foods. It does not come from animal foods at all. So you want to have fiber. And I am very much about eating real food, and whole foods, because if you are using a gummy, that you can get a fiber gummy bear and fiber things, eat real food first. A lot of those fiber supplements have other things added to them. So you want to try and get the fiber. And chickpeas is loaded with fiber. They've done studies where they gave two groups. They had a control group, and these were people who wanted to lose some weight. They had a control group, and they had a group that they had them eat chickpeas every day, a certain quantity. The other control group, they just ate whatever they wanted. And the people in the group that were eating the chickpeas felt full longer, and they ended up losing some weight because of it. And it was the chickpeas have the fiber, and it takes longer to digest it, and it helps you to stay full. And then the tahini that we added adds healthy fats and also calcium. The garlic is an amazing natural immune booster. Lemon juice gives us our dose of vitamin C, and it really helps to make for a really well-rounded, nutrient-packed dip. So hummus is a great dip anywhere you go because it does have all of these nutritional benefits. And I said that you should chop your garlic in advance. So if you chop your garlic and let it rest 10 minutes before you add it to the hummus when we did our thing, what happens is it releases the allanase, which is the enzyme that helps produce allicin, which is not spelt like the name, but it's a compound that's responsible for garlic's amazing health benefits, which is it's a powerful antioxidant, antimicrobial, and anti-inflammatory food. And once you add the garlic, if it's heated or blended too soon, then you're going to stop that reaction, and you're not to make it into allicin, and you're not going to get the properties. So let it rest for 10 minutes. It's something I always need to remind myself. Okay, start with the garlic first. And then the crackers that we made are also little powerhouses of nutrition. The flaxseed, pumpkin seeds are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, not to mention all the fiber you get from flaxseed and also the other seeds. So the omega-3 fatty acids will help to reduce inflammation, and they're also very good for our brain. Sunflower seeds and sesame seeds bring both magnesium and zinc to the table, and that supports our nervous system and our immunity, and also create the crunch. And once they are roasted in the oven, you start to smell all of the amazing fragrances from the nuts and seeds. It tastes delicious, and certainly will give you a lot more benefits than the crackers that you can buy in the store. And I hope you saw that it was pretty easy to make all of these things. It didn't take a lot of time or energy. Crackers, just throwing this stuff together. I would do it all day, every day, but I don't need to eat crackers all day, every day. But if I had them in the house every day, I would be eating them. That's all I can say on that one. All right. Any other questions before I talk a little bit about my other topic? Because I'm really passionate about, at this time of year, people are thinking about New Year's resolutions and stuff. And it's interesting because my coach and her partner are big into astrology. And when it comes to setting goals, I saw her she was talking about the fact that this isn't really the best time of year, and the winter is our hibernation time to be setting goals. But because we have the calendar and everybody wants a fresh start in the new year in January, we tend to start making resolutions. And I mentioned on our first day that a lot of times, by the time you get to mid to late January, 90% of the people that made resolutions have already fallen off the wagon. And I don't want that for you. If you're thinking about making some New Year's resolutions or making some changes, it's really about being kind and gentle to yourself, finding a way to make it sustainable. And I was talking about my own health journey yesterday and the fact that I was addicted to sugar. I mentioned it earlier. And I found I did a reboot, and that helped me to get off of sugar. And every year I do an annual reboot to because I would get off of the sugar, but other things would creep back in. My salty foods, potato chips, things like that. I was still eating those kind of things. And over time, I would pick one thing that I would want to focus on. So I focused on not eating potato chips. And I have become more whole food, plant based. And we do have some things in the house, not just for me, but for my family. And that's where we have the feta cheese. But I try to use the one that I forgot to bring into the house. And it's okay to have some of that stuff, but if you can try to eat whole foods about 80% of the time, look at that 80-20 rule and give yourself some grace. And it's about consistency, not being perfect, because a lot of times we like to put the bar way up here. And if we miss, and I was that person, I would decide I was going to go on a diet on Monday. And by Monday night, I had something I shouldn't eat. And I was like beating myself up. And I put the bar here. And because I failed, I just threw in the towel and did nothing. But once I started doing my annual reboot, I've really been on this journey to do things a different way. And my journey has been 11 years. It doesn't have to be 11 years. I've learned so much over the 11 years, but we can apply some of those things now and not need to go for 11 years. And one of the things is I'm going to just tell you my reboot. When I started, I got the idea for what I was doing from a documentary called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. It was the story, or it is the story of Joe Cross, who was obese and had autoimmune issues, on a lot of drugs like steroids. And he did this juice reboot. And that's where I got my idea from. And I did similar to his juice reboot. But the first one, I didn't have a juicer and I couldn't afford one at the time. So I did a different kind of reboot with vegetables, a little bit of fruit, but mostly vegetables. And that got me on my way. It got me off of refined sugar, which is what I had set out to. And it also got me into being plant-based, totally by accident. I was not planning it, but I've never looked back. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I used to do that for a whole month. And I would basically juice for a whole month. Some months I didn't quite make the whole month because after a while you really want to eat something. And I wanted my savory foods, and juices tend to be a little bit sweeter. But most of the time I did a whole month, and that would get me back into a really good place. The energy was incredible. After you get through the first few days, I just felt amazing. But about 3 years ago, I was introduced to a 21-day program that is safe and easier to follow than just juicing. And what you do is you spend 1 week getting your body ready to do a 1 week juice fast or liquid fast, because you can use smoothies as well. And then you do the 1 week of preparing for the fast, 1 week of a liquid fast. And then the third week, you start reintroducing your foods in. And that, I really like it. It gets the same benefits, easier to do, and it's very safe. And so that's what I do now. And my 21-day jump start program that I'm going to be doing starting January 2nd, if you're interested, is exactly that. We're going to set you up for 1 week with a menu plan of foods that you eat over the week, and so also some liquids you're going to do as you prepare for the juice portion. And then you do the 1 week of juices and smoothies. And then after that, you start reintroducing foods back in. And you don't want to start on day one reintroducing back things like potato chips. That'll really not go well with your digestive system. So we add back the easy to digest foods. And this gives you a real jump start on if you wanted to lose weight, if you want to repair your gut and you want more energy. People that do this 21-day jump start have more, the energy and the clarity that they get is amazing. And people have lost, women at least, so that's the group that I'm part of, lost up to 15 pounds to get you started. It's just a start. And then from there, you can take it where you want. And the other side of it that I've learned in the last couple of years, it's not just about making changes like changing the food you eat. You want to have sustainable change. And the only way to do that is to work on making some changes to how you look at things, getting rid of some limiting beliefs. And what happens is we can have willpower and stay away from things. And I can have willpower not to eat potato chips or not to eat my crackers that I've got over there. But it only lasts so long. And they say that they've done studies, and 20 minutes is basically the average for how long our willpower will last. So we need to work on ourselves first. And you are only going to be able to do what you, how that you're only able to rise to the image that you have and how you think of yourself. And so the first thing that we need to do is always look at nourishing ourselves from the inside out. And that means doing things like more self-love and really increasing our self-esteem and working on what is coined as our cell inertia, because all of these things are part of our subconscious. And so that's the first thing, is to work on that. And as part of the program, we have a self-mastery portion that helps us to start working on our inside and mastering our emotions, mastering our thoughts for whatever you want to do. So if you can master your emotions and your thoughts and your mind, then you can do whatever you want and you can make sustainable changes. Start small, make sustainable changes. I'll carry that on tomorrow, give you more about how you can join my program. If you are interested, we'll do that tomorrow because I have a great offer for you. It's going to be my best offer of the year at 50% off. And we'll love to tell you more about it tomorrow. Right. Any questions as we wrap up? And my crackers are smelling really good here. Can hardly wait to let them cool and try them. Yeah, I wish you could see or smell through the Zoom. That's what Zoom has to work on, a smellerator or something. Is my crackers? That's 20 minutes. My crackers are pretty much done. I could show you them here. They're a little bit golden brown around the edges. And yeah, this is good. I'm going to turn off the oven and let them stay in there for a few more minutes while we say goodbye. Oh my gosh, we went over our hour. I really talked a lot today. All right, as we wrap up, I don't know if there's any more questions. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Tomorrow, we are going to make a no eggnog cheesecake. Now I'm going to make little mini cheesecakes for you. And that will round off our week. I'm going to put my music back on, and you guys have an amazing rest of your day. I have some crackers and hummus. Take care.